Today's lesson has to do with quadratic inequalities. By the end of the lesson, you're going to be able to solve this quadratic inequality by using tables, graphs, and algebraic methods. And you notice we have x squared plus 8x plus 20 is greater than or equal to 5. And you notice that it's been graphed here. Also, we're going to use a table to determine the solution to this inequality. Now you notice that the left side says x squared plus 8x plus 20. So we're saying whatever comes out of the left side has to be greater or equal to 5. We're trying to see the left side is greater than or equal to 5. In other words, I have x values, and suppose that I use x equal -1. And you notice I have here x equal -1. We know that the y value is 13. Is 13 greater than 5? The answer is yes. We're going to try -2, and we have -2 is going to be put into the left side of the inequality, and the solution comes out to be 8, or the value that comes out is 8. Is 8 greater than 5? Yes. And then we're here at -3. We're at -3. We're going to go ahead and we're going to input -3 here for x. And we want to see what comes out of the left side. And on the left side, we have 5. So is 5 greater than or equal to 5? And we would say yes. So we know that any value that is less than greater than -3, any value greater than -3 or equal, any value greater than or equal to -3 is going to give you a value that is equal to 5 or larger. Okay? Now, what about the numbers that are between -3 and -5? We know that it falls below y equals 5. So therefore, everything that is below will not be part of the answer. So for example, -4, if -4 was placed into the inequality, the answer that we would get on the left side is 4. Now is 4 greater than 5? We would have to say no. So therefore, anything that's in between -3 and 5, or -5, between -5 and -3 will not be part of the answer. Now, if we start at -5, again, then you notice when x is -5, the value is 5, so we know that y equals 5. So it is equal to 5. And then when x is -6, y is equal to 8. So what we're saying is whatever comes out of the left side, if it's greater than 5, then it's part of the answer, and this is part of the answer. And when x is -7, what comes out of the inequality is 13. Is that greater than 5? The answer is yes. So let's go ahead and write down our answer. So what I'm trying to tell you is that anything that is greater than -3 is an answer, and anything that is below -5, including -5, is an answer. Okay, so, and anything that's in between these two will not be a solution to this inequality. So any number between -5 and -3 will not be part of the solution. Any number greater than or equal to -3 will be part of the answer. This is the one we're talking about. X is greater than or equal to -3. On the left side, it would be x is less than or equal to -5. So any number less than or equal to -5 will be part of the solution. So let me go ahead and raise that here. So I showed you that anything that is less than -3, we notice that the y values 5, 8, and 13 are greater than 5, or equal to 5. Anything that is less than -5, including -5, will be greater than 5. So the only part that is not part of the solution is the numbers between -5 and -3. That's the first example. The next example, I'm going to go ahead and show you step by step. I'm going to show you step by step how to do this, how to solve this algebraically. So we have solve x squared minus 10x plus 18 is less than or equal to -3. So the first step is to write it as an equation. Okay? So we're going to go through the process of solving this equation as if it was a quadratic equation. We're going to find the critical points, and that's going to help us to determine what are the solutions to this quadratic inequality. Remember that a quadratic inequality has more than one answer. Okay, so we have x squared minus 10x plus 21 equals 0. So how do we get there? We added 3 to both sides, the left side and the right side, and that's how we got 0 on the right side. That's how we got 21 on the left side. The next part is you got to find the factors of 21. So you find the factors of 21. That will add up to be the middle term, or the middle coefficient. In this case, it's -3 and -7. When you add up, you get -10, and when you multiply, you get 21. Okay? The next step is to set each factor equal to 0. So you have x minus 3 equals 0, x minus 7 equals 0, and then to get to our critical points, you're going to add 3 and you're going to add 7 to both sides. So now our next step is to figure out what are the solutions, or what are the x values, that are going to make this a true statement. What are the x values that are going to make this a true statement? So we know that definitely -3 and -7 I'm sorry, we know that 3 and 7 are going to make it a positive statement or a true statement. Okay, so let me go ahead and get my calculator out. So we have 3 squared. We have 3 squared minus 10 times 3 plus 18. And what do we get? Yeah, negative 3 does equal negative 3, so that's a true statement. Now we check 7. So we have 7 squared minus 10 times 7 plus 18. And that's also negative 3, so that makes it a true statement. So now we got to check numbers that fall after 7, and I'd like to try just the next one, which is 8. So we got to try this one. How do you try it? You're going to substitute. So you have 8 squared minus 10 times 8 plus 18, and you have to check if that's less than or equal to negative 3. So you have 8 squared minus 10 times 8 plus 18, and you get 2. Now the question is 2 less than or equal to negative 3? And that's false. So this part of the solution is false. So now we're going to try a number that falls before 3. So we had to try 8. That was false. Let's go ahead and try 0. So we have 0 squared minus 10 times 0 plus 18. And we have, so we have 0 squared minus 10 times 0, so that's 0. So is 18 less than or equal to negative 3? That would be false. So obviously the answer has to be between 3 and 7. And so we can check 4. So we have, this is going to be false. So let's go ahead and check. Let's go ahead and check 4. So I have 4 squared minus 10 times 4 plus 18. And we're going to check if that's less than or equal to negative 3. So let me make this bigger here. Oh. So we have 4 squared minus 10 times 4 plus 18. And we notice that it's negative 6. So is negative 6 less than or equal to negative 3? That's true. So the answer for this inequality is between negative 3, between 3 and 7. So the solution is going to be x is greater than or equal to 3 and x is less than or equal to 7. So that's the answer, or that's the solution. Okay. So what I just taught you right here is how to solve this quadratic inequality algebraically. We're going to go ahead and try the last one together. And we have x squared plus 5x plus 6. So the first step is to write this as an equation. So you have x squared plus 5x plus 6, and you have it as an equation. You're going to solve this by factoring. How do you solve this by factoring? You're going to go ahead and get the factors of 6. In this case, it's 2 and 3. And you got to make sure that they add up to be 5, which they do. So we have x plus 2, x plus 3 equals 0. To find the critical point, you're going to set them equal to 0. Then you subtract 2 from both sides. So you have x equals -2. Subtract 3 from both sides. So you have x equals -3. So you found your critical points. Now you notice there isn't an equal sign. So these critical points cannot be part of the solution. So I'm going to go ahead and do my number line. We have 0, -2, -3. And we know that -3 and -2 will not be part of the answer. So we're going to check the answers to the right of -2. And how do we check? We're going to select one point. In this case, I'm selecting 0. And you're going to substitute that into the inequality. So you have 0 squared plus 5 times 0 plus 6. And you're going to check, is that less than 0? So that's 0. Now the question is 6 less than 0? That's not true. So this part is not true, so it's not part of the answer. So that's false. Now we have to try a number that falls after -3. So let's try -4. So we have -4. You got to be careful, make sure you have parentheses. -4 squared plus 5 times -4 plus 6, and you're going to check if that's less than 0. So you have -4 squared plus 5 times -4 plus 6. That's 2. So we notice that 2 will not be less than 0. So both of these are false. So this side is false. So the answer has to be between -3 and -2. So if you want to check that, we can try -2.5 because that's between. So I'm going to do it on this side. We have -2.5 squared plus 5 times -2.5 plus 6, and we're going to check if that's less than 0. So you have -2.5 squared, make sure that you have a parentheses, plus 5 times -2.5 plus 6. And you notice it's -0.25, and that is less than 0. That's true. This was true. This was false. And this is false. So if one point is false, they're all false. If this point is false, then they're all false. And you notice between -3 and -2, the answer is -2.5 was true. So the answer to this is everything that falls between -3 and -2, not including -3 and -2. So your answer will be x less than -3 or x greater than -2.